Ravens take this one 28-14. Top 5 graded Baltimore Ravens here in this game. Center Tyler Linderbaum at the very top of the list with an 86.5. Running back Derrick Henry, 20 yards in this game. He was awesome to watch. 82.6. Tight end Isaiah Likely with a 72.3. Edge rusher Odafe Owe with a 79.6. And then, I think Isaiah Likely is supposed to be an 82.3 to be number 3 on that list. Excuse us. And then tight end Mark Andrews at number 5 with a 77.0. Lamar Jackson, though, the highest graded player on the team with a 92.9. On Pittsburgh side of things, linebacker Elandon Roberts with an 80.9. Wide receiver George Pickens with an 80.8. Center Zach Frazier, 75.0. Defensive tackle Keanu Benton, a 74.5. And then Spencer Anderson, their guard, rounding it out at number 5 with a 73.5. Russell Wilson in this game, not as bad as you might think. 81.4, but obviously it was not enough to get it done. Stat that told the story here, Dalton.
Simple. This game, for as much as Russell Wilson hit a few deep shots, which is the Steelers' offense, it has been that for the second half of the year.
Trying to tell people the whole time.
This game was over at halftime. That's just what. The Steelers had 2 first downs in the first half of this game.
Yeah. Their offensive philosophy.
There isn't one.
There is. It's run the ball and shot plays. We've talked about this so many times. They are exactly what the Eagles do, but they don't have the Eagles' offensive line. They don't have Saquon Barkley. They don't have A.J. Brown, for as good as George Pickens might be in those situations. And they sure as hell don't have the tight end room and the wide receiver 2 that the Eagles do. You're trying to do what Philadelphia does with a much less roster. And this gap right here, it doesn't work. That's the difference of how we got here.
Which to me also doesn't vibe with how Arthur Smith wants to usually run an offense anyway and what we saw in Atlanta.
That was an interesting wrinkle all season long.
Because Kellen Moore, yeah, that's kind of what he does, right? With Philly, with Dallas, with, when he's been with the Chargers. That is kind of what Kellen Moore does. Arthur Smith isn't even that kind of coach, and they became this team anyway. 2 first downs in the first half for, obviously, the Ravens, the reason of the Ravens holding the ball for over 19 minutes and dominating, but also just couldn't move the football. 49 total yards, 2 first downs, and it's just that simple. If you prevent the deep shots, they got nothing. That's that simple. They didn't even attempt a deep pass in the first half. Russell Wilson's average depth of target in the first half was less than 3 yards. So, I mean, if you're going to go out on the sword at least, and if Wilson throws 4 picks in the first half, I might respect it a little more. They just didn't. There was just no. It felt like, and it's felt like this for a couple weeks already. It just felt like they had nothing left offensively. Second half, Wilson boosted the grade up. I think he made 4 big-time throws or chuck. In the second half, they come out chucking deep balls. I go, why didn't we do this from the beginning? At least you would have maybe gave yourself a chance. I mean, that's all that's been working over the last, 8-9 weeks with Wilson at quarterback, and over the last 5 weeks, it dropped off the cliff, and they've scored 17 or fewer in 5 straight games. You just can't continue to win games when it's just, hey, we throw up jump balls. Okay, what else? Oh, nothing. We punt it. You either throw go balls or you punt it. That's where we're at now, and that's what happened with the Steelers in the first half. Is they didn't get the go balls, which means they were punting it, and the Ravens were rolling them over on offense and holding the football. And when you only get 2 first downs in an entire half, either one, you're gonna lose the game.
Right,
you're gonna lose it handily.
Right. So Derrick Henry, 26 carries, 186 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 7.2 yards per carry average. Obviously, an incredible day on the ground for the Ravens. The stat that told the story to me is certainly the Ravens' run game. Them leaning into the run is not a surprise here. The Ravens, it starts with, okay, stop Derrick Henry. And if you can't get past step 1, it's going to be a really long day for you because they are very comfortable just giving Derrick Henry the football and winning football games that way. So if you cannot stop Derrick Henry as step 1 for a defense, the chances of you winning the football game are very slim. The Steelers' run defense, which has been a good unit. They're really good up front, and I think that this has been one of the better run defense units in the NFL. They had, again, kind of like what we talked about with the Chargers, one of their worst days of the season. They had a 55.6 run defense grade with a 0.234 EPA per rush. That's the worst single game EPA per rush that they've given up all season this week against the Ravens. 3 weeks ago when they played the Baltimore Ravens, it was sort of the same story. A 42.9 run defense grade and a 0.011 EPA per rush. That was their worst run defense grade of the entire season. So in the span of a month, You've played the Ravens twice, and it has yielded your worst run defense grade as a team all season long, and the worst EPA per rush in a single game all season long. They just haven't been able to stop the Ravens on the ground. And that was the formula. And for that game to play out again the way that it did, no wonder why they didn't win. 9 missed tackles in the run against the Ravens. 5.09 average depth of tackle. They're not tackling Derrick Henry until he's at least halfway to the first down on average every single time he touches the football. Touched the football 26 times. Again, if that's your average and Derrick Henry's touching the ball 26 times, you're not going to beat the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens were able to get their highest rushing grade when they were running outside zone, which I loved. So maybe it was a little bit of getting away from the teeth of that front for the Pittsburgh Steelers and sort of forcing the linebackers, the corners, other people to sort of rally and tackle that way, because Ravens earned a 78.2 rushing grade on those outside zone running concepts. So I think that maybe goes into it a little bit. I think they had a really good strategy, and that goes right into my most impressive, and that is just Todd Monken. I mean, Monken's had an unbelievable year as the offensive coordinator there, and I think that's a bigger conversation of we've got all of these head coaching openings around the NFL. I think Todd Monken was talked about as a head coaching candidate. He's had some interviews over the last couple of years. Like, I don't know if he's just not interviewing well. I'm obviously not in the room, but if you go back and look at Todd Monken's resume, top 3 offense in all of college football when he was at Oklahoma State for 2 straight years. He was a Southern Miss before that. I should have said that. He was a Southern Miss. He was Southern Miss's head coach before that. No. I believe it was the other way around. I believe he was the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma State's offense when they were top 3 in the FBS in total points scored for 2 straight years. Then he goes over to Southern Miss, builds a winner there. Gets a job as the offensive coordinator with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they had Jameis Winston and Dirk Cutter was the head coach. They were lighting up the scoreboard. Say whatever you want about Jameis Winston and how that Buccaneers team was disappointing on the defensive side of the football. They were never a playoff type of a team. They sure as hell could move the ball on offense, and Todd Monken was a big part of that. Dude wins back-to-back national championships with Stetson Bennett at quarterback when he's at Georgia, and now he's doing his thing for the Baltimore Ravens. Look at Lamar. You can't sit here and say that, Todd Monken's just this Lamar Jackson merchant. What are you talking about? Lamar was an MVP last year. He's only been better this year. And I don't say any of that to take it away from what Lamar has accomplished. I'm giving Lamar all of his flowers, trust me. But for the offensive coordinator to understand how to take a player who's as uniquely gifted as Lamar Jackson, who wins an MVP last year, and help make him better, I don't know. I don't know if he's not interviewing well or what, but I don't know how we are not lining up out the door to get this guy as a head coach. For normally, when you have NFL teams that have head coach openings, they can't figure out a quarterback. Either they have a quarterback there and they're disappointed in the output and the return on investment that they're getting from them, or they don't have one at all. Todd Monken handles either of those situations. So that's sort of just how the Ravens were able to dominate once again, game plan-wise, and then going into my most impressive, which is just the year that Todd Monken has had as offensive coordinator.
A couple of things on all of that. One, Derrick Henry. He's had 11 games this year where he's rushed for at least 90 yards. The Ravens have won all 11 of them. They get Henry going and they get the two-dimensional offense going. You're at this point, you're not beating them. That's where we're at. If you like you mentioned, pick your poison. If you're going to stop Henry and take your chances with just Lamar in his arm, go for it. I mean, but you have to take away one or the other. If they both get going, it's over. The game's over almost before it starts. And on Monken, I think, to your point, the idea behind splitting with Greg Roman a couple years ago and bringing in Todd Monken was to make Lamar a better drop-back passer. Well, he's a better drop-back passer than ever. And when they can just at any point, it used to be, right, where it had to be play action. It had to be rollouts. It had to be, crafting stuff for Mark Andrews in the passing game. Now it's, we can just drop back and throw the football, and he's going to be great. I think that is a huge credit to Todd Monken. He's been fantastic. And I'll tell you what, you have Lamar, you have Henry. I could pick either one as most impressive any week. I got to get to another guy up front. Got an elite center in Tyler Linderbaum too, and he was just terrific down the middle.
He was excellent.
You mentioned all the outside zone blocking, and I'll just go with this. His overall grade, 86.5, is second best of the season. 89.9 run blocking grade. 13 positively graded run blocks, Trevor.
Whew.
10 of them in that outside zone scheme
there
that
we
you
go.
mentioned.
There we go.
I will tell you right now who was the most sick of him after this game and does not want to see him until next October or whatever. His former teammate, Patrick Queen, boy, that it was a mismatch. When Tyler Linderbaum got to the second level on Queen, and you saw it on one of Henry's touchdown runs, it wasn't fair. Linderbaum was all over the place in the run game. Again, this is why we're around, is to give the offensive linemen their credit and try to quantify their value. And Linderbaum, one of the elite centers in football, as he was drafted to be, and he certainly is one of the best pure run blockers at any position in football, and he was dominant between the tackles in this game. First level, second level, outside zone, like you mentioned. Just a great football player on the inside. And when you have a center like this, like him, like Creed Humphrey, like Frank Ragnow, it makes it so much easier to run between the tackles, because especially when you have guys getting to the second level, that's when good runs turn into great runs. And we saw that from Henry, and we know with the acceleration that somehow he still has at 30 years old, when Derrick Henry hits that second level, he's gone. And I think, again, a big credit to that goes to this offensive line and Linderbaum specifically in the middle.
So the most disappointing, I'm just sort of looking at the show sheet here. I think my point's going to go into your point, and we get to have a little bit more of a conversation about the Pittsburgh Steelers, because for most disappointing for the Ravens' outlook, we know what it is. They're setting up for an unbelievable game that's going to be must-watch television of Lamar versus Josh Allen. But the most disappointing in this game, to me, it's a little bit of a trend that has been very concerning. Steelers' first quarter output in this game and all season long, 38.2 defensive grade in the first quarter. 20, and this season overall. So that was just this past game. 38.2 team defensive grade in the first quarter. That means you're coming out the gate slow. You were not ready for whatever the Ravens were going to throw at you, very clearly, to have that kind of a grade. If you look at their first quarter defense throughout the whole season, 22nd in run defense grade and 26th in coverage grade in the first quarter throughout this season. Mike Tomlin's supposed to be a defensive guy. Mike Tomlin's supposed to be a guy who has people on their P's and Q's, who understands the game of football very, very well, who come out of the gate with a really good game plan. I'm not trying to say that the Steelers should fire Mike Tomlin, because I do respect him as one of the best coaches for the last decade and a half. But Tomlin's calling card is the defensive side of the football. We're not even talking about Russell Wilson. I'm not talking about Arthur Smith. I'm not talking about the long list of quarterbacks that they have had since Ben Roethlisberger that haven't worked out. I haven't talked about the loyalty to Matt Canada, which was long overdue, about them moving on from him. I'm not even talking about Tomlin's deficiencies on the decisions for the offensive side of the football. I'm talking about his area of expertise, having the team ready, having the game plan ready, coming out of the gate, knowing what's going on, setting the tone on defense. You're 22nd in run defense grade in the first quarter, and you're 26th in coverage grade in the first quarter. This whole season. And in the playoffs, it's a 38.2 first quarter defensive grade. To me, it's just it's hard to not go, has Tomlin kind of hit his ceiling right now for the Steelers? Obviously, he is somebody who has won a Super Bowl for them. He has been successful previously. But what is it, 0-6 in his last playoff games?
5 or 6, yeah.
5. So 0-5
I think it's since 2016.
0-5 or 0-6 in the playoffs over those last stretches. I mean, he's got the above 500 streak, right?
Yeah.
And so we praise Tomlin for what his floor is as a coach.
Rightfully, I think.
And I think so too. And again, I'm not trying to throw more shade or stones than is necessary here, but I am saying that this was not just we faced a Baltimore Ravens team that is better than us. Oh, well, Russell Wilson's not really the quarterback that we think it is. Well, you don't really have the weapons on offense the way that you want to. I'm not even talking about any of that. I'm just talking about the area that is supposed to be his expertise, with really good players on that side of the ball. And they're falling very short of what the standard should be. And they did all season long. And it reared its ugly head again this game.
I think the whole thing for me, and it goes together. The Steelers have arguably the best defensive line in football, right? That's the only reason they win games. You mentioned the coverage grade part, the first quarter coverage grade part. That's all 4 quarters. They can't cover. And teams after the first maybe 6-7 weeks figured out, if we just get rid of the ball and our quarterback protects himself, they can't cover one-on-one. They just can't. And I mean, they're running Dante Jackson out there and undrafted rookies and other guys.
And Porter Jr. struggled all year.
Porter struggles at the catch point. And they run too much man coverage on top of it, even with very, very suspect corners. So they win games for one reason, and that's because their pass rush is so good that it can disrupt the entire game. But you just can't. I think whether you have Tomlin or not, and they're going to. I think until that streak ends at some point, they're going to have Mike Tomlin as their head coach. Because if he were to get let go right now, the Jets and Jaguars and Raiders should all be lining up at his door.
I agree with you completely. I think that Mike Tomlin in Jacksonville is perfect. I don't think it happens because I do agree with you. I'm just
I think it all, and it's tough to say this many years later, but it all stems from just never having a plan. After when Ben Roethlisberger was declining, they're right now, and I'm surprised they're even this high, 18th in offensive grade as a team this year. Okay, they have not been in the top 15 since 2018, and we are still looking at a team at that point that was struggling at quarterback and offensive tackle in different areas of this offense. We have no idea who the quarterback's going to be next year.
Nope.
We have two solid weapons in Pickens and Freiermuth and a whole bunch of questionable after that, right? Mm-hmm. I feel no better about their offensive tackle situation right now than I did before the season at all.
Troy Fautanu missed the whole year, so you get him back. In theory, he plays one of the offensive tackle spots.
His rookie year is next year. And
yes.
Broderick Jones is struggling, and Dan Moore Jr. is not it. Even if Tomlin stays, there just needs to be a round table in that building about what our entire philosophy of winning is, and it's not the standard is the standard, and we win because we win, and we're the Steelers, and T.J. Watt's great.
It's still my least favorite phrase.
I know it is.
That every coach says. The standard is the standard.
I don't know actually what their philosophy is to winning, other than stay in it and our D-line will get it done. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work. That doesn't work.
Well, before I saw these numbers, I would have told you it was defense as a whole.
Unless you're like Philly as a monster and you have a monster secondary, which you have nowhere near that, and you can score more than 14 points in big games, that's not winning football. I mean, the fact that they patched work together 10 wins in a playoff spot is cool, but this was the most obvious game of the week to me.
Yeah.
Like, they have no shot of winning this game. Zero.
Felt like it.
They can't score and they can't cover.
The only thing that they had going for them was familiarity.
Unless their front four absolutely dominates a game, they struggle to win. And I think the philosophy of what this team's road to success is, especially offensively for me, they need to have a serious talk about that. Because I'm not sure that they know what it is. They're just patching together plus, over 500 seasons just to get here and lose.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below. So if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.